working on a big creative project, maybe you're writing a book or a piece of music or something that's going to take you a good amount of time. One of my clients is creating an exhibition of work with themed rooms and different techniques, and she's really working on the overall big picture. One of the most important things that you can do when you're working on a big project like that is to continually engage in your creative practice, even if you don't feel like it. Even if you are not in the mood to do something that requires a lot of thought, you don't have a lot of spoons to do something messy or whatever, that if you engage in the work every day, even if it's reading in the subject matter that you're working in, or maybe it's reading through what you've already written, or it's like I'm doing is just making patterned papers that I can use in future works, that once you regularly engage in your creative practice, it flips on your subconscious, and then your subconscious knows, hey, we're doing this now. This is work we're doing. And so it knows that it's always on alert to look for connections. When I was writing my book, I found that at the beginning of the process, I would only write when I felt inspired. That was not that often. It was every few weeks I'd sit down and I would do a little bit of work. And it was such a slog because my subconscious hadn't clicked on. My brain and body and mind and spirit didn't know that we were writing a book. And every time I would sit down to work on it, I would have to re-engage with the process again. I would have to remember what everything I had been working on. But if you work on it daily or multiple times a week on a regular schedule, you start to see connections in your life. A lot of fiction books that I read while I was writing my book made their way into my book and changed the course of the book. There were many moments where, had I not been working on a specific chapter and thinking about a specific thing and then read a book that mentioned that thing, that like connections wouldn't have been made and the book would have been different. And the best thing you can do is just keep engaging in that creative process so that your brain is on alert, looking for new ideas and new connections. There were some times I would sit down and I'd be like, okay, let's look at this one section. I can't figure out what to write. And I would look at it and be like, okay, it's not ready to be written yet. And then I would check in every now and then and be like, okay, still not ready to write this. And then I would just wake up one day and be like, now is the time. I know exactly what to say. Or I would see something or read something or have a thought that suddenly clicked it all together. And then I would just immediately start writing it in my head and I would be able to write it really easily. And if I would have forced it, it wouldn't have come out well. I would have felt tortured during the process. And because I regularly engaged in my writing practice, I learned to develop trust in my creative process and in myself. And I knew that if I gave it the time and the space, and then if I just kept engaging, kept sitting down to work, that eventually it would start to come together. So those people who tell you to sit down and write 1,000 words per day and then in 50 days you've got a book written, that's not how the process works. That's not how creativity works. It's much more elusive than that, and it's much more mysterious than that. And your subconscious and what happens in your dreams and what happens when you're engaging in the world all play a part in what that final result will be. It's a magical process. I love it so much. And if that's something, and if you are working on a big project and you're having a hard time giving yourself that compassion and developing the habit of regularly engaging in your creative practice, I would love to talk with you about how to get your project up and running and off the ground.